Hello everyone, I'm Auntie Kara, but this video is not for kids. This is another edition of book reviews for grown-ups who love fairy tales. Today we are going to be talking about and reading from Alice Hoffman Magic Lessons. This is the prequel to the Practical Magic series, and it is the last book in the series I read. And I love this series. Do yourself a favor if you love witches, you love magic, you love herbalism, any of that. Go read the series if you haven't already, because it is absolutely amazing. When I got to the last chapter of this book, I got a little teary-eyed because I knew that it was the last one that was out, and I don't know if there's going to be any more, and I just didn't want to say goodbye to the characters. And I know I can go back and read it again, but there's just something about discovering all of that for the first time, and having more of the story to uncover. So this one is a prequel, as I said, if you're familiar with the Practical Magic story, and I did review the series a little earlier, so I can link that video in the comments below. But it is basically the story of where it all began for the Owen family, and it follows Maria Owens, who, if you know the story, is kind of the big matriarch of the line who started it all and laid down the infamous curse, which creates a lot of the conflict in the other series with the other characters and pretty much the entirety of the family across the generations. So for me, I kind of resisted reading this book just because I really love all the characters, and I was always really mad at Maria for laying down the infamous curse that prevents them from really being able to hold on to love, and makes for so much heartache and so much death and so much suffering. And I just didn't understand how someone could do that to their descendants and their children and their children's children and deny them of that experience. So this book kind of answers that question. It is not my favorite of the series. It does take place, I think it's the 1500s. It's around the time, a little bit before and about the time of the Salem witch trials. So the whole witch craze that happened in the United States at that time. And one of the things I love about the series is it's fiction, but it really does interweave real fact with it as well. So in terms of the Salem witch trials, it is very well researched in terms of the figures and the big players in that time and what was going on in academia at that time and all of that. So it's really good for that. And as usual, the herbalism is spot on. I don't know everything about herbalism, but from what I know and what I am reading in this, there doesn't seem to be too many inaccuracies, except for, where they make it a little extra supernatural. So in that way, I love it, because I love books that teach me things, and even the things that aren't real. I love being able to go and be like, oh, that sounds so cool, is that real? And Google it and look it up for myself and learn a little bit more. So it's really good for people with curious brains. As far as the story itself, as I said, it follows Maria Owens and a little bit her mother and her daughter, and it talks about how she laid down that curse. It is a very captivating story. I will say it's not my least favorite one. Ironically, Practical Magic is my least favorite of the series, but it's probably my second least favorite. I definitely like the other two, the ones that follow Sally's daughters and the one that follows the aunts, the best. But I did love it. It was wonderful. So it starts with her life kind of being raised by a witch, and I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to ruin the story, but you see her travel through childhood into adulthood into a space where she can never think she's going to fall in love because of things she's seen happen to her adoptive mother and her biological mother. And then you see her fall in love and how it goes awfully wrong, but you also see where it goes awfully right for her as well. So in that way, it was quite the ride, and there is a pinnacle point about maybe a third of the way through where I was squealing while I was reading it, because it was just so amazing and romantic and magical and whimsical and all the things I love. And I was confused because it felt like the pinnacle of a story, Like, it felt like it was the end, but I still had so much of the book left. So be prepared that there's lots of climax points in this story, and it doesn't necessarily focus on just one instance. So like it's very much one of these books where you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and then it like does a little bit more story development, and then you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. So it's very entertaining in that facet. Like it's hard to put down. It keeps you going, and just when you think the story has reached its happily ever after or not so happily ever after point, then more things happen, which I really like, because that's what life is like. Nobody ever reaches that one point of like, oh, everything's perfect, and then it stops. It's like, you know, good things happen, and then not so good things happen, and then good things happen, they get resolved, and it really takes you on that roller coaster. And you do get to see Maria's regret about handing down that curse, and it explains a bit of why she couldn't undo it. So that was really cool to see, and it does tie in with all the other stories. So I don't know if it was last released in the series, but I would recommend reading it last, because you can kind of see it interweaving with everything else, and I really, really love that. So I'm going to read to you 2 sections, not very long. The first section is kind of a statement about love and love magic, and the second one is a description of Maria's familiar Caden, who is a crow, and I just love crows, so that one really got me. So I'll read the crow one first, and then we can leave it off on love. It was said that if any of God's creatures could think like a man, it would be a crow. For they have minds that never rest. Caden was a great collector, and brought back all manner of treasures discovered in the surrounding villages and towns, found at the great estates as well as the laborers' hovels, spied from above by his bright visions of the world below. What belonged to others was fair game for him to steal, and rich and poor made it. What belonged to others was fair game for him to steal, and rich or poor made no difference. They all had something worthwhile. He could flick in through a window and flit out again, or dive into a trash bin, or pick through a garden buttons, spools of thread, coins, children's poppets, horsehairs, and once, on a bright blue day when he could see farther than any other beast or man, he brought back a hairpin, clearly stolen from a lady in a castle, a lovely, intricate object that had tiny rubies set into the silver. Maria, now nearly 8, was in the meadow when Caden swooped down to drop this miraculous find at her feet. He had been somewhat wounded in his attempts at stealing the treasure he now offered, and there was a small scar on his head. If you read this, the journey of Caden is superb and beautiful and heartbreaking and heartwarming. It's just fabulous. All right, now let's go on to the central factor of all of these stories, and that is love and love magic. The women who made their way through the woods most often came for one thing, time and time again. It was love. Love everlasting, young love, love defiled, love that caused aches and pains, love that left bruises and red welts, love wished for desperately, or love to be rid of as quickly as possible. Often Hannah wrote down the desired result and placed the bit of parchment in her spell box. She cast her spells while lighting a candle, white for health, black for expunging sorrow, red for love. Prick the third finger of the left hand with a silver needle to bring back a lover. The power of a spell increased with the waxing moon and decreased with the waning moon. Time mattered, devotion mattered, belief mattered most of all. Maria sat by the hearth, which was hers to tend, for she had her own tinder box and could start a fire in a flash. From that warm and cozy spot, she watched Hannah scan the pages of her book filled with remedies and spells, careful to take note of the potions and powders that were prescribed, amulets of apple seeds and menstrual blood, doses of henbane that could bind a couple together, or, if used in excess, could cause delirium or death. The heart of a deer or a dove that brought about devotion, even in the most feckless and untrustworthy of men, and fragrant verbena, which, depending on its use and what the user desired, could bring a man to you or cause him to be impotent. Remember one thing, Hannah told Maria. Always love someone who will love you back. Great advice. All right. I hope you check out the series. And one more note, I heard there's going to be another Practical Magic movie, and I'm so excited. I don't know much about it. I can't say for sure if it's going to be, you know, Rules of Magic or Book of Magic or whatever, but whatever it's going to be, I am so excited, and I cannot wait. And if this is news to you, try not to jump through a window in your excitement, because us Practical Magic fans have been waiting for years, decades, for a new one. So I can't wait for that. And if you are anxious, go and read the books in the meantime. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Ta-ta for now.